Hello, it's Lindsay here. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on a little bit of watercoloring stuff. This weekend Saturday seminar is all about watercoloring, and so I thought I would do a quick tutorial just to show you kind of how I did this back here. I did some watercoloring on some of my days. These days were pretty light, but it's fine. When you look at it, because of the colors that I picked, it kind of looks like it belongs in the book, which is cool. So I used the Tim Holtz Distress Markers, and I used the Wild Honey, the Crushed Olive, and the Tumbled Glass colors for this book just because they seem to go really good. You could also use this pink one, the Worn Lipstick. These these markers come in a set. I picked these ones up at Michael's, but you can pick them up pretty much anywhere. I think any craft store. And they're the Tim Holtz Distress Markers. So, but what I think I'm going to do, yeah, I think, you know what, I'm going to put all four of those colors in. The other thing you're going to need is some old packaging. I'm just using, I don't even know what was in here. I think it might have been a stencil or something that was in here. And the reason why I use something clear rather than one of my craft mats, because I have these craft mats as well, which is the same stuff that I have on my backing when I do lots of creative stuff, but I've just cut it up into smaller pieces so that I can use it for stuff like this. The reason why I'm doing it in a clear one is so that I can kind of see how big of a space I need in order to just keep it on one section. So I'm also protecting the rest of my book by just putting a couple of sheets of just regular paper behind it, and I use these in my art journal so you can see all of the stuff that I've done. So anyways, you don't have to do anything with this. You could cut it out if you wanted to just use like a single sheet, or if you wanted to keep these or whatever, but most of the time I just use this once or whatever and then throw it away because I always get these in with packaging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of watercoloring on the 25th, I think, maybe a little bit on the 24th too, just because it's a little bit plain this week, or next week, so I kind of wanted to decorate it up a little bit and also show you guys how to do a little bit of watercoloring in your dory. I also have a mini mister, which is also Ranger, which is the company that makes the Tim Holtz stuff. You can use any spray. I like these ones because it's a finer mist and it's I don't know, I really like it. Anyways, so all you're going to do is take your markers, and I'm going to start with the green, and I'm using the brush end, and maybe I'll throw some pink in there. And of course this is going to be mirrored, right, because when you flip it over you're going to get a mirrored effect. So put some yellow down there, and then of course put some blue down. So I'm just basically rubbing the side of the marker on the sheet, and then I'm going to take my spritz and I'm just going to give it a couple of spritzes, kind of just to wet it down. You can see that it's wet. Sorry about the glare, but unfortunately I can't help that because I do need the light in my room. And then you're going to flip it over, place it down where you want it, and you can rub it a little bit and all that, and then you just lift it up and there's a bunch of watercolor. You could do it again if you wanted to use the same sheet. I'm just going to give this a quick dry, so I'm just going to fast forward this little part so you don't have to listen to the dryer. Alright, so as you can see, it does bow the pages just slightly, but you can mostly bend them back to the way that they were. I'm going to do this side now, and I'm going to do a little bit more blending of the colors. I will take a little piece of paper towel, though, and just wipe off what I've already used, just so that my markers and stuff, it's kind of fresh. So, I'm going to take this one. And this one I'm going to kind of go all over the place with these, just to kind of give, I don't know, you can draw however you want on your watercolor page, really. And then when you're ready to do it, then it's all kind of, I don't know, maybe marbly. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, really. Alright, so again, I'm going to spritz it. And flip it over. Sometimes you can move it around a little bit if you want to do that. You can do that. And just push it down, spread it all out, and there you go. And one other thing, if you do have washi tape down, your watercolor will not go on the washi tape, so you can just wipe down your washi tape so that it's not all wet. Again, I'm going to give this a quick dry, so I'll fast forward here. Okay, so because I chose lighter colors, the bleed through is not a whole lot. But if you don't like the bleed through, then I would say cover up this side with a little bit of gesso or white acrylic paint before you do your next week's page. But I don't really mind that. I actually had some over on this side too. When I did that, I had a little bit over here, so when I was planning it, it seemed to work out okay, but that adds a little bit more color to your page. If you didn't want just plain pages, sometimes I don't really like the plain pages, but I think it just adds a little bit to it, and it's a good way to, if you're wanting to watercolor in your books, you totally can. You can use this on your planning pages, you could use this on your blank pages if you're wanting to do like a scrapbook spread or something like that. You could color your pages first and then do all your scrapbooking above it, or on top of it. And yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed that tutorial. That was just with markers. You could also just use watercolors, but I really like the marker effect. I think it looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of like crayon, so I think it's really neat. But there's all sorts of tools. You can get these Jane Davenport aqua markers or mermaid markers. The only issue with the mermaid markers is that they're very color intense, and so what I would recommend if you're going to use these is to use one of your craft mats and just color outside of where you want to color, and then add some water to that just to tone it down a bit, just because these markers, because they're so dark, you're going to get a ton of bleed through. So if you lighten it up with a bit of water, then that should help with those. Same with like regular watercolor. If you're using, let me just grab mine. If you're using one of these sets, you may want to tone it down a little bit with just a bit of water before you add it, or maybe do a test page on your to-do list, because it's the same paper, so you can tell if it bleeds through or anything like that. So if you're wanting to watercolor with this kind of stuff, you can test if it bleeds through. The less water you use, the more chance it's not going to bleed through, but with watercolor you need to use water, so it's kind of a catch-22. But if you do use the lighter colors, there's going to be less bleed through for sure. So I hope you like that, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Bye!